Today I'm going to unbag, well, kind of unbag. This is an open bag here. Modern War number 54, Soviet Fallout. This was the penultimate issue of Modern War. I think the last issue was number 55. This was number 54, and it was the end of an era of Modern War, which was the one of Decision Games magazine games. They have Strategy and Tactics, World at War, which focused exclusively on World War II, and Modern War, which by its name focused on Modern War. So I guess the Modern War, issues, or the Modern War topics and battles and campaigns will find their way into Strategy and Tactics. So let's open this up. Well, this is going to be tough to open up. Boom, there we go. I got this from Noble Knight. So I'm not sure if this was part of their 25th anniversary, which is going on right now, or a code from my good friends at No Enemies Here and Ardwolf's Lair. So with Modern War, you get a magazine that will have the rules inside of the magazine, and we'll get to that. We'll do a quick page through. You get a map for the game itself, and you get a counter sheet. And this is something that Decision Games is getting better at their counter sheets. I remember back in the day, their counter sheets were really bad. They were really thin and had a lot of nibs. They really poked out poorly, and I was not a counter clipper. I do have a counter clipper now, much from the urging of Ardwolf's Lair, but I really don't like clipping very much, and I think these counters come out better. At least the more recent Decision Games, or at least the magazine games, had some better counters. So you're going to have there's a double-sided here. Not each counter has something on the back side, but you got some markers here. Ethnic cleansing. This is a relatively modern conflict. This was in the early 90s, and ethnic cleansing was a very bad and sad part of that conflict. And so you have ethnic cleansing on both sides, or at least each side has their own counters there. And some of your standard NATO symbols on there. We'll take a look at that when we open up the map. Let's do a little bit of a page through here. So we got Soviet Fallout. This conflict was between 1992 and 1994. And so in the Modern War magazines, and the other Decision Games offering, in their magazine offerings, there's the game issues at least have a game, and there's usually an article dedicated to that game or to that conflict to give you some background context. A lot of advertisements here for Strategy and Tactics and their various games. This is a lot of their folio series, which are, there's large folios and there's mini folios that they have. A lot of different topics in there. I tend to pick their games up because I like the variety of topics, and I like seeing a little bit different take on it, and a little bit smaller games sometimes. And these folios are not don't take up a lot of table space, and nor do they take up a lot of time usually. Here's your table of contents for this, and your regular departments that go along with this. So Soviet Fallout, you're going to have a whole article on that conflict, and then we have three other main articles, and then your regular departments here. And here is that article. Got a little note here for acronyms, and this is by Javier Romero. He does quite a few games for Decision Games, and I think he probably might have done this game. I need to look that up. I always like their maps in here, so you get a inset of the different conflicts here. And this is the one that the game is focusing on. This is the Georgian Civil War, the Chechen, And then the one that's at the heart of this game here is down in this region near Armenia. So, as I said, the articles, I find them very informative. Oh, we got a little bit of a click there. And then we get into the rules themselves. And these rules, one thing I do like about decision games is that the rules are attached here by a sticky. I don't know where's happened to the sticky stuff there. Here it is. To this insert, you usually have a flyer here talking about their games. This was the last flyer for Modern War, right? Because this was the next to the last edition of it. But these just come right out. You just pull on that glue tab there, and these will come out. And then you can keep these separate, which I do. And then I put them in a clear, one of those envelopes that you can pack everything. You pack the map, the counters and bags, and then the rules all together. And then I put the magazine on the shelf. So let's page through the rules real quick here. This is standard decision games rule setup, at least for their magazine games. Dual column, color, relatively small print. And they're usually about 16 pages. Let's see what we have here. We have 16 pages of rules, and it's all of the 16 pages, because on the back here is how you win. Kind of an interesting thing there. Oh, here's your sequence of play. So on the very back, you've got the sequence of play here. So that's nice. You can leave that, flip it over, and have your sequence of play. So dual columns, small font, but a lot of your typical stuff to expect: zone of conflict, zone of control, movement, combat. There's going to be some interesting or some different nuances to this game, especially with the ethnic cleansing, getting into that aspect of the battle. Normally in these modern conflicts that have items like that, there's usually maybe a political element, or what's the worldview on that, or the United Nations or the like. So that's the rules, and as I said, I'll pull that out and put that along with the map and the counters in a separate a plastic envelope that I use for that. This is the continuation of the article here. And this is an ad for the game itself. And here's some designer notes from Joseph Miranda. So I guess, so Romero wrote the article, but I guess let's look at the designer for this game. Because it's Javier Romero. Okay. So, but yeah, Joseph Miranda, he does quite a few games for Decision and plays in this space as well. So he's writing up some design theory here, an article. So, Battle of Fireplace Marianne. This is Vietnam. This article there. That's an interesting map there, showing the perimeter of the fire base. U.S. show strike on Syria. So, article here. In Operation Earnest Will. Interesting. This is dealing with the Persian Gulf and the oil. Oh, this is interesting. I want to read up on this. Have some experience with this in the 90s, actually, that I can't really talk about. But this looks an interesting article here. I want to get into that. That's a bonus for me. On the horizon, so this maybe was something that was coming up for Modern War, but it stopped there at 55. Objective Hamburg. This Saddam move south was not to be. Maybe they'll find its way into strategy and tactics. But they had a Saddam moves south, South China Sea, Tanks of August, Bosnia 1992 to 94. That would have been an interesting one. And Ukraine Civil War. Interesting. And these are just some of their regular departments, I believe, here. Interesting. Creation and progress of the French nuclear deterrent, 1960 to 2014. That's interesting. Giant Killers, the North Vietnamese battle against America's Linebacker 2 air campaign, 1972. Okay. Dealing with air campaigns in Vietnam. And there's always, ads for all their other stuff in here. Pretty heavy on decision games in here. Fast and Deadly, Hypersonic Weapons, and the New Strategic Arms Race. If you're interested in that. A lot of air in this, air warfare in this edition, or this one. New Phase of Underground War. Oh, Corrupt Bargain. This is interesting. I have that in. That was one of the other games I bought from Noble Knight, and so I was thinking about doing an episode on this today, on Corrupt Bargain, but I decided to do this magazine instead because I've had this sitting around and I don't do a video until I can't play the game until I do a video, and I want to get this to the table and push some counters around. So this will be coming up next, probably. Coming soon, yes. Coming soon to you and coming soon on my channel. Corrupt Bargain. I'm kind of into political games. I'll talk about that when I do that video. And some book reviews here. Midway Solitaire, this was a magazine game that they produced in a deluxe edition in a boxed version. Here's some of their solitaire games. So Modern War 23, Modern War 26, 28, and 30. Assume that's what the MW stands for. This is a decent game. This French Foreign Legion Paratroopers, I have this. I enjoyed that. That's a solitaire game, too. It's kind of a campaign game. And there you have it. That is the magazine, issue 54. Let's open up this map here and see what we have inside. I might have to pop up the pop up the camera a little bit so you can see a little bit more of it there. Let's get a higher view here. There you go. You got a little bit more view of that map. One thing I've been seeing in the decision games, the hexes are big. These are really good size hexes, as you see. I mean, the counters are not going to be tightly fit into those hexes, as you can see there. Here's Azerbaijan. Here's Armenia. And this is where most of the conflict's going to be at. You've got some holding boxes here. These are for Armenia. Recruit display, support available, support used, and then you're going to have that for the Azeri, for Azerbaijan forces. You've got a bombardment table, random events table, post-Soviet chaos, because you got to realize this is 1992, the fall of the Berlin Wall is 89, the breakup of the Soviet Union in the 90s, early 90s. So, I mean, this is kind of an offshoot of that breakup of the Soviet Union. So you got the post-Soviet chaos, the Azeri political table. So there is going to be some politics in this. Combat results table. And it looks like you're going to have a combat results table over there. And can't tell what other that table, I can't read upside down here. Here's your terrain key. Here's your terrain effects chart right here. You've got your data track, general data track, and your game turn record track. So there's going to be, looks like probably some events and stuff that happen from the turn track there. So, and that's something that magazine games typically do, especially the Decision magazine games, in that they try to get all your charts on here, because you're not going to have any player aids, because if it's not in it might be in the rule book itself, but that's part of the rules, and so you're not going to have a separate player aid or chart that comes out. So everything's going to find its way onto the map. So they're usually this size. This is relatively standard size, and you're going to get the map playable area, the hex playable area, and then you're going to get all your charts and tables and boxes and holding boxes, anything that you need, and turn tracks, anything you need to play the game or to refer to in the game is usually on the map itself. And then you have the rules as a reference, and then of course your counters, and then you will have to supply the dice, which probably shouldn't be a problem, right? We all have some dice somewhere. Break open an old Monopoly game if you have to. So that's what you get in the magazine. I was going to say in the bag, but this really wasn't much of a bag there. That's what you get along with Modern War number 55 for July to August 2021. This is the game edition. And so you get the counters, the map, and the rules, and then you get a magazine as well. Love to know your thoughts on this one, since this is the second to last Modern War. What did you all think of Modern War? Apparently you didn't like it enough, because it didn't sell enough, and so they had to do away with it. But I generally like the Modern War and the different offerings, the different magazine games, just because they cover. I mean, how many games were out there on this conflict? Other than this one, don't lie. This covers conflicts that are not regularly covered or commonly covered. So I generally like magazine games for that. I like them because they're not monster games. I mean, they're relatively playable in a reasonable time period. You're not going to have multiple maps and multiple counter sheets, so it's something you can get to relatively easily. The downside of course, is that sometimes these aren't play tested as much. The rules aren't as clear. There's usually more errata. Errata's life, right? Especially with all games, especially war games. But it's even more common with magazine games, and they're not play tested as much, so there could be some issues there. Some of the other downsides are you don't get all the player aids. The counters used to be a downside, but I think these counters are getting better and let's see how these pop out here. Yeah, these pop out pretty clean. Gary would have to, of Artemis Flair would have to clip those, of course. But, it's not a box game, but that's also kind of a plus for me, because I can put that into a magazine. I use these string envelopes here, and I only got 2 left, so I got another one on the way, another magazine on the way. But I put them in here, and so they're easy to store for me, because then I can bag the counters, put the map and the rules once I take them out of the magazine, and then I can put them in a bin, and I can probably I have these 1 bins. If you've looked at a video of my game room, you'll see, but I can probably put 20, 30 or so of those in a bin, so I can keep them all organized that way, so they don't take up hardly any shelf space for me. So that's another kind of plus there. But anyway, love to know your thoughts. Love to know what you all think about this game particularly, but Modern War in general, or magazine games in general. Love to hear your thoughts and see a dialogue. So, or start a dialogue. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thanks for stopping by. Greatly appreciate it. And leave some comments. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.